Alrighty, artists. So what we are going to focus on for this project is just getting to know how to use text in Photoshop a little bit. Primarily, I use Photoshop for mostly things regarding photos, but you can also add text to certain documents and artwork as well if you would like. So we're just going to create basically a text collage. So collage, we know we're kind of combining a lot of different elements. And I just want to learn more about you essentially through this project. So essentially you'll be including your name and maybe some fun facts about you, pictures if you would like to. And this kind of relates back to that original photo challenge that I asked you to do where you actually find pictures that kind of represent yourself in some way. So again, learning how to use text in Photoshop. If we go and open our Photoshop, the first thing we're going to do is just choose the size of the document that we would like to create. And I essentially would like you to choose like an 8.5 by 11. So if we go to File, New, you're going to find the letter or 8.5 by 11 inch selection here. That will tell you the width and the height of the page you'll be working on. Right now I'm in inches. You can always just go in and type this information on your own if it doesn't pop up right away. Okay. We can change the title of the document. So I could call this my text collage. And then your resolution can be 200 here. And then we can change RGB to CMYK. Or you can leave it at RGB. This is mostly for internet usage. CMYK is if you would like to print your image off at some point. So we can leave the white background as well and then just click create. Give it a minute here. And essentially, like I said, what we're going to do is just start off with some basic functions and adding text into our document. So we are going to look to the left here where we have our toolbar. And if for some reason that letter T doesn't show up and you don't have text on your toolbar, if you ever find that you don't have some of the tools on your toolbar, you might just simply need to go in and left click down here at the bottom of your tools, and you might have to edit your toolbar. So for example, if I noticed that any of my tools weren't already in my toolbar, these might be the tools that weren't there. So if I'm seeing that, okay, Mrs. Stalky is asking me to do, to use, for example, the move tool, and my move tool isn't there, you might come over here and you have to drag it over to your toolbar to add it. I did have to do that with a few ones like crop and my paint bucket. So you can always customize the toolbar if you're missing any of your tools. So before you get frustrated that a tool isn't there, definitely check first that it's kind of not stowed away and that you have it on your toolbar. So first thing we're going to do, like I said, is work with that text function. So if we left click, you'll see the options within that function. So we have horizontal type and vertical type. Horizontal is straight across the page from left to right, so I'm going to stick with that. I am going to click near the center of my page. You'll see that some text automatically pops up. I just want to get rid of that right away, so I always just type what I want to have on there first. At this point, what you'll notice is over here, being that I added text, it added a new layer in Photoshop. So here's what I will say to all of you is in Photoshop, it's important to work with layers. Why? If I go in eventually and want to change this font and not the rest of my work, it makes it so much easier if you are working in layers, okay? So maybe I'll have all my purple fonts in one layer, and the yellow font, something like that. Or I might have every separate section on its own layer. So I might have just Mrs. Stalky on this layer, my pictures in another layer, okay? And I'll show you how to add new layers too. So right over here, we have our layers little selection, and underneath we have all our layers. Our background is always going to be at the bottom of the list. The things you add on top will be towards the top of the list. So if I ever want to edit what is on this layer, I'll have to make sure I'm on that layer. So I'll click that layer. If I want to move this text, notice it'll keep adding it if I just click around. If I don't like what I did, you can always hit edit undo, and it didn't even add it yet, so I don't have to really worry about that. But what I need to do is, I'm just going to delete that layer because I didn't mean to do that. I can always left click and hit delete layer. I didn't mean to do that, but you'll see that I need to be on the move tool, which is right up here. The move tool is usually at the top of your toolbar. And I can now move that text where I want it to be. You'll notice once I have it centered, that pink line shows up down the middle. So how awesome is that it automatically notifies you when it's centered? I can have a lot of fun with my text. If I go to my text tool here and click this, you'll see all of my options pop up here. So like I said, your first option, you can change it to vertical or you can have it horizontal if you click this first button at the top. I can choose my font style. I wanted something bold that I can have a little bit of fun with, so I chose a bold font like Impact. Click that. I can decide, what size font it is. So let's say I want the biggest. Oh, 72, it's not big enough. I can physically go in and type, okay, let's try 100 and see how big that is. Enter. Might even be able to go a little bit bigger. Let's try 120. Click enter. That might be a little too big. Let's try 110. Okay, so play around with font size a little bit so that it fits on the page appropriately. You'll notice that your color swatch is up here as far as what color you want your font to be. There's a little rainbow where you can drag your arrow to pick a color. I actually kind of like the purple, so I might leave the purple. But you can click anywhere in this box then to pick a lighter purple, darker purple, medium, whatever you want it to be. I'm going to do fun light purple like that. Click OK once I'm done. I can click this kind of curved line with the T on it in order to warp the text into a certain shape. So I can arc it. I can do an arc on the lower, arc on the upper, an arch. I can do these really funky shapes. Flag, that's kind of a popular one. A fish, interesting. So all of these different options here. Fisheye, popular shape, and I kind of like the arch. The arc. If I stick with the arc, I might have to make it smaller. And stick with the arch. And then we can play around with the bend, how intense it is. Ooh, I like that, a little more subtle. And once I'm decided, click OK. If I'm liking how my text looks, I'm going to click the little checkbox. That means I'm good with what we have. Okay. So then, kind of done editing that layer. But let's have a little bit more fun with this text. If you double click on the layer, all of these options will pop up. Okay. So we have a bevel that you can create on the outside. I don't really mess with that a lot normally. We can create a stroke around the outside, so that just means we're almost adding an outline. You can play with the opacity of that outline or how the text shows up. If I want to edit the stroke, I need to make sure I click stroke, and then I can go to the size and I can make that outline bigger, larger, whatever I see fit. So I don't want it to be too big. I think like right in there is good. You can do the inside of the letters, the outside of the letters, or in the center somewhere. I kind of honestly like how that looks on the inside, so I might roll with that. And we've got the opacity, which is kind of how transparent it is. So that's always fun to play with a little bit. If it's too dark, you can lighten it up a little bit. Make it more translucent. And then the fill type, of course, you can choose, what color outline you want it to be. can have a lot of fun with that too. So I am going to leave it at black because I like how bold that is. And there's all of these things you can play with. So let's go to gradient overlay. That's a pretty cool one. If we click gradient overlay, we can choose a gradient, which is kind of a transition from one color to another or several colors. You can click these arrows. So you click the gradient arrow and they have all of these different options for you. So you have to click the arrow next to the folder to see all the options. But I have kind of so much fun with this, working with text. Just kind of pumps it up a little bit. What do I like? I think the purples are kind of fun. I'm not much of a pink girl, but some of these might be cute. Let's try somewhere in the orange. That seems fun. Ooh, that's kind of cool. Ooh, cloud option. That's pretty. It's kind of like a cloud. I'm going to stick with, I think one of these in the oranges I'm liking. So have fun looking through that. I'll stick with this one here. And then my opacity, if it's not bright enough, I'll bump that back up a little bit. Now I can click OK once I am good with how it looks. So at this point, again, what you're doing is just adding more text to your piece to tell me about yourself. So you might add fun facts about yourself, words that describe you or your personality. So for example, let's add a new layer. Add new layers. So if we go to our layers panel, underneath here there's a little plus sign inside a box. We can create another layer. And I'm going to create another text layer, so I'm just going to add some more text here that says that I will put art teacher because that describes me. If I want to move it, click that move tool again. All right. Again, it'll tell you when it's centered, which is awesome. I want that to be a little bit smaller so it's not as prominent. Just like that. And maybe I want to change the font, so I'll just highlight the whole thing and change the font if I would like. Ooh, that's kind of fun. Let's try. I kind of like it on impact, but let's see. Try something like that. And I might make that a little bit bigger because the font in general is kind of thin. Something like that looks good. Maybe I'll change the color to black. All right, cool. So added my second piece. What you can play around with before you add more things would be changing the background. So if I want to change this white background, I'll go over to my layers panel. My background is always at the bottom of the list. So I can unlock that by clicking the little lock button. I can double click that and I can add a fun gradient to that too. If I go to gradient overlay again, and it already popped up the same gradient that I used for my text for my name, which is kind of fun. So I might actually leave that as is, but you can always go to that gradient panel again and choose from something that you like in there. Okay, so just showing you another option for your background. And then what I want you to do from here, like I said, is just add a bunch of fun stuff, pictures, more text, really play around with how many things you add on here. I want it to be full. So I might say, you know, I have 2 cats. I am a first place demolition derby winner from whatever year, I can't remember. Add as many facts about you that you think are fun. If you want to add pictures, you are going to go to your File button and then click Place Embedded. Once I click that,